What's going on, everybody? This is The Style Boxing. Once again, thanks to those joining me live and to those that be joining me on archive. Make sure you hit that like button if you're listening on the archive. Also, hit that like button and make sure you do that, okay? And subscribe if you like the content. This is brought to you by Coor Cerveza. Okay, I just want to give a quick shout out to my late grandfather, passed away about 10 years ago. This was his favorite beer. And it was his birthday not that long ago. So here we go. With that said, let's go ahead and get this party started. All right. Let's talk about Bivol and let's talk about Beterbiev. All right. As we all know, Bivol defeated Zurdo in pretty convincing fashion, winning, 10-2, 11-1, 93. I think somewhere around there, everybody has their scorecards. Very convincing win. I think after that performance, most people, I feel, have a thought that maybe the fight is going to be more competitive than they originally thought, or maybe flipped, right? Maybe now they're favoring Bivol over Beterbiev. I don't know, but let's go ahead and see how you guys feel about it. I want to welcome Jiffy Morales, her first appearance on the roundtable. I'm going to go ahead and, first of all, tell everybody where they could find you first, and then tell us who would you favor in that hypothetical matchup.
I'm Jiffy. Thank you for inviting me to the round table. I feel official.
That's right.
You guys can find me at Jiffy Morales on all platforms. And if the Bivol versus Beterbiev were to happen, I had mixed opinions about what would happen until Bivol's last fight. I know Beterbiev, he has like huge punches, especially when he's at a close range. But now I'm not sure if he's going to be able to get in on Bivol. So if it were to happen, I'm going to go with Bivol.
I'm going to go with Bivol. Like, you have to take a deep breath. Now, but now, how did you feel before this Zurdo fight? Were you favoring Beterbiev before this, or?
Yeah, I was. And I was on the fence about Bivol because he beat Canelo, but I'm just like, Canelo looked like my size compared to Bivol. So I wasn't convinced until recently.
Okay, so a little more official there for sure. Mario Munguia from Infighting Pod. Same question to you. If this hypothetical matchup happens in 2023, all Russian undisputed, who would you favor?
Yeah, I'll just say it straight off, Bivol. I think Jiffy made excellent points, and I'm just going to, just remember her points. Those are my points as well. And to add to it, I think that the issue here, or not the issue, but I think the beauty of this fight, like boxing is its best when you can take somebody who does something really well and match him with somebody who does something else real well. And those kind of two things, it's like, man, who's going to win? Like, who's going to win the chess match here? And that's what this is. Beterbiev is an incredible puncher, as Jiffy said, but he's got to find Bivol. He's got to get there. I'm not saying he's never going to find him, but is he going to be able to create enough opportunities that he's able to take it away from Bivol? Because Bivol can score points on the judges' scorecards without having to have these major moments in a round. And I'm not saying that's necessarily the situation with Beterbiev, but I see that kind of fight playing out. So when you look at the totality of the fight itself, I honestly think it's a more intriguing match than Crawford-Spence. And I know everybody's going to shit on that, or it might sound stupid, and I get it. I'm not saying it's a bigger fight. I'm not saying it makes more money. I'm not saying anything like that. But strictly from the idea of wanting to see the best, most competitive matches at the prime moments in fighters' careers, the fight surpassed Spence Crawford, in my opinion. I'm not saying neither of those guys are too old. I'm saying the fight itself is too old. But I'm ultimately going to say it is going to happen. I think Bivol and Beterbiev do end up fighting because now you look at the two roads and it's kind of like, what else do you do? I mean, you could obviously make more money with Eddie Hearn in a number of ways. Bob Arum, same thing. But these two guys are on a collision course. And if they want to up their careers to the next level, they got to fight each other.
Absolutely. All right. Joe Habib, all Russian, undisputed 2023. Try to vision it. First of all, do you think it's going to happen? Second, who wins? And have you flipped since the Zurdo fight?
a bandwagon jumper. I'm on the Bivol train now. I thought Beterbiev would beat him, but I'm on the Bivol train now. Dimitri Bivol is by far and away the best defensive fighter in the sport right now. I mean, Gilberto Ramirez couldn't hit him with a handful of salt in the ass, man. He was just so good defensively. And the thing is this, man, a lot of people talk about like the high guard and everything, but it's the feet. It's the feet. He's got very subtle movement. He knows how to step around you, constantly forces his opponent to have to reset. And another great thing that Bivol does is he transitions so quickly from defense to offense and offense to defense. You know, a lot of times when not just Gilberto Ramirez, but a lot of his opponents will rally off a combination and then they reset before they can bring their punches back in and get in their defensive posture. Bivol's already punching because he's so quick, transitioning. So definitely he'd have the speed advantage over Beterbiev. And again, he's such a great defensive fighter. Beterbiev's not a one-punch knockout guy, and it's hard for me to imagine, him reeling off, combinations and landing like, 3 pieces on Bivol, because I don't think anyone can do that right now. So I'm going to say Bivol will win a decision against Beterbiev. I think he'll outbox him. I think he'll outmaneuver him.
All right. Okay. Chicano, same for you.
Yeah, I think this is one hell of a fight, and I agree. Dimitri Bivol, super fluid guy, but it's an intriguing matchup. I use Bet Online to make my bets, and the odds have come out for this fight. It's almost a coin flip. Beterbiev is a -105, while Bivol is a -125. So he's the slight favorite, even though it's still a coin flip. And I was a little surprised. I wasn't sure, what the odds would say, because that's always an indicator for me. But before I saw these odds, I would have picked Bivol too. He's so fluid. Also, he's able to back people up that I wouldn't expect. Like, I didn't expect him to be able to back up Canelo like he did. I didn't expect him to back up Zurdo like he was able to, and command the center of the ring at times. And he's just so busy, so peppering, so fluid. On top of that, too, people are starting to say, hey, Bivol has more power than he lets on. He's also really intelligent. He doesn't sit there and commit all the time, but he's imposing his will on his opponents. And I know what Beterbiev does well, and he does have power. I know what I think he needs to do. Will Bivol allow him to implement it? I think that's a good question. But for right now, if you were to ask me, I would favor Dimitri Bivol.
All right. And here's the thing. First of all, because I've been saying it before this sort of fight, but I'm more convinced now. I believe Bivol beats Beterbiev. I've always felt that way. Stylistically. Nobody in the panel picked. I'm kind of surprised, but so no one in the panel. But we did have 2 or 3 that thought, they would favor Beterbiev before the Zurdo fight.
I'm a front runner, and you know that.
You're a front runner. Is that what it is?
Hard, not playing.
But you got to put respect in the salt, though. Like you throw salt.
I'm like Don King. I'm like Don King stepping over Joe Frazier and going going over to
Foreman,
Ali, or Foreman, excuse me.
Yeah. He never knocked out Frazier, Ali. Okay, I'm just saying. All right, but look, the problem for Beterbiev is this, and I keep hearing the same thing. I could only go by what I see with my eyes and what I see them do in the ring. That's it. I keep hearing everyone throw at me the accolades of Beterbiev in the amateurs. Oh, Batista, you don't understand. He had 300 amateur fights. Oh, Batista, he was in the Russian team. Oh, Batista, he had an amazing, amateur record. How can you possibly say that Bivol's a better boxer? Because I see them fight. I see them fight in the ring, and Bivol looks like a better boxer to me. That's why. And now we've seen him do it against 2 guys at a very high level, Canelo and Zurdo, and he hasn't missed a beat. The more punches Zurdo threw, the less he hit Bivol. It's amazing. He threw 8. I keep hearing, Zurdo should have thrown more. He threw 80 punches and only landed like 8. He was trying. He just couldn't land on the target. The target kept moving, right? Batista, you don't understand. He's the Terminator. Beterbiev doesn't stop coming. He's a T-800. He's Arnold Schwarzenegger from the Terminator movie. Okay, cool. Right? I'll tell you right now, Bivol is a T-1000 liquid metal. You know how Bruce Lee used to talk about, put water in the teapot and it becomes a teapot. Okay, and all this other stuff. Okay, you put liquid metal in the teapot, it becomes a teapot. Okay, that's what he is. If Beterbiev is a T800, then Bivol was a T1000 liquid metal. Okay, for those that haven't watched the movie, watch it. T2 Judgment Day, highly recommend it. Okay, now I already know what somebody's going to say. Didn't the T800 win? In the movie, yes, okay, but with a lot of help, though, okay? Every time they fought mano a mano, the T1000 whooped its ass every time, I'm just saying, right? But with that said, is the fight going to happen, Jiffy? Do you think it'll happen next year?
I don't think so, especially with what's going on with the WBC. It wouldn't be like undisputed either. I guess we'll talk about that soon, but I don't think so. I think it's a huge risk for Bob Arum. He's very I'm on the fence about him, so I don't think he will allow it to happen. And if he does, it'll take some major convincing and millions of dollars.
Okay. Mario, is this fight going to happen?
Yeah, 100%. I understand Jiffy's point and it's valid, but the thing here is you have to look at which fighters we're talking about. I mean, these guys are, I don't want to say they're being persecuted. That's too strong of a word, but the ground is kind of crumbling on fighters from those countries. And despite the fact that they don't live there and, all that stuff, it doesn't matter. They need something big. At this point, they're too dangerous not to fight each other. Because if you think about it, yeah, Arum can parade out Yarde and other fighters and all this stuff, but all you're doing is waiting for the moment where Beterbiev just loses if they're never going to fight each other. Every single other fight in this division does not matter when it comes to legacy. The biggest fight is right in front of them. And they're both in positions where it's not like they could just go fight Charlo or Triple G or, the heavyweights. Like, there are no other big fights. They have to fight each other. The ground is crumbling.
Beeb, really quick. So what's your verdict? Is it going to happen next year?
I'm trying to find out how many fights that Bivol has left with Matchroom. Because if Bob can get options on Bivol, then he would definitely make the fight. Just like the same situation with Haney, how they weren't too keen on making the Lomachenko-Haney fight, but now they are because obviously Bob has Haney now, right? So it all depends on that. If Bivol is still with Matchroom, then the fight will not happen. But if he's free and Bob can get options on him, then the fight will 100% definitely happen.
That's what I was trying to say.
For sure. Chicano, are we going to get this fight, brother?
I don't think so. I'm a bit skeptical on this fight being made. This fight could have already been made. They asked Beterbiev if he wanted Bivol, and he was kind of like, "Oh, I like the idea of Undisputed." And all of a sudden, he had to fight Yard. And I remember an interview where Eddie Hearn was saying, "Well, we don't have to deal about that mandatory. Like, what are we talking here? We know we can get this fight done." For some reason, in the era of Undisputed, everybody just kind of gave these guys passes for fighting other folks, and so. I'm skeptical myself. On top of that, too, Bivol can always possibly get that Canelo fight, and I think he's got to keep that in mind. I know that we're all giving Bivol a lot of credit because he's chasing legacy, but I think money talks. He might just be posturing. I've never seen a huge cash cow like Canelo not get the fight that he wants. Typically, they do get the fight that they want.
Yeah, money talks, bullshit walks. Absolutely. How's it going, Box Talk?
What's up, fellas? Sorry I'm late. Had some internet issues.
Things happen. Hey,
you can hear me okay, right?
Definitely.
Okay, cool.
So first of all, it looks like Bivol wants this fight. I don't know about Beterbiev. I'm sure he does, but there's always going to be politics, etc. But first of all, do you believe we'll get Beterbiev versus Bivol next year? And whether you do or don't, let us know. And if it happens, who would you favor in that fight next year?
I don't think so, and I was hoping for it sooner rather than later. I know after I think Yard's name got thrown in the mix at one point, and I thought, okay, maybe after that they'll both have like a clear schedule and they can get it on. But now I'm hearing Caleb Smith, I believe it was too. His name got thrown in there, and so I'm like, dude, why? I don't know if that was like WBO or WB. Somebody, I think they mentioned him after Yard, assuming of course Beterbiev
Yes,
takes care of business.
WBC convention.
He'll have a full
Was
year.
it
though.
WBC?
He'll have a full
Yeah.
year to have to fight him though.
Yeah, and so I'm like, why do you guys keep throwing these guys in the mix? Like, I think everybody knows what we want to see. Like, I don't understand why any sanctioning body would throw another guy's name in the hat right now. Like, that's not what we want, you know? So, I don't know, man. I'm kind of skeptical when these two guys fight, maybe twice a year. I don't know. I don't really see it happening as much as I want it. And if it were to happen today, I would favor Beterbiev, but the dude's what, 37? I mean, he's not getting any younger, so we're talking maybe if it does happen, maybe a year from now, right? Because these other guys are now in line, so I'm like, it's not looking too good.
Okay, wow, we got somebody that got Beterbiev. There you go. All right, I hope the fight happens. Look, Jiffy touched on it, but let's go ahead and start with this WBC convention. I have a lot of things to say about the convention, but I want to start off with the Mauricio Suleiman, and I'll clarify a couple of things for everybody just to unpack it a little bit. But the WBC announced, okay, in very formal fashion, that because of the invasion of Ukraine, that they will be removing Russian fighters. They'll be sanctioning them. They'll be removing them from the rankings. And they also added that they will not drop any Ukrainian fighters from rankings if they've been inactive because of the war, they say. And another thing is to note is that they do have some exceptions. Okay, we know what that is. Money talks. So I'm sure if a promoter offers them money, it is what it is. But Beterbiev, for those that don't know, is actually Canadian. He's more Canadian than Bret the Hitman Hart. I heard him the other day saying he's the best there was and the best there ever will be. You know what I mean? So, Canada, like everything, right? So he's Canadian technically, right? And I think Bivol, from what I heard, he got citizenship somewhere else. So,
Bivol's Korean. Korean Bivol.
Oh, there you go. So. More than likely, they won't play the Russian national anthem, even if they do have unification. Maybe, I guess. But I don't think it's going to affect them. But it is going to affect a lot of boxers, frankly, that have no say in what's going on. I just wanted you guys' thoughts on that. Box Talk, what do you make of the WBC making this decision?
I guess I kind of get it. I just don't know if that's really, how do I say this? If that's their place to really say, oh, we can't rank you, or I don't know. It's tricky, man. Because like you mentioned, Beterbiev and Bivol, and it's like, well, they're champions, so you can't strip them. Obviously, they're there whether you like it or not. I know when Bivol fought Canelo, they announced that he was from Indio, California. He's not from Indio, California. I think we all know he's not from Indio, California.
Right.
I don't know, man. But I can't think of any other guys that are ranked right now in any way in any sanctioning body that would automatically be dropped, right? I can't think of anyone. Anyways, the only two guys I think of are the ones that are champions, so they're not going to get stripped. I don't know. I feel like it's a little too much politics for WBC to be dipping their hand into that. Just I think maybe leave it at boxing. Stay out of the political stuff.
All right, Beeb, talk to us.
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't want to get too political about this, but this is upsetting to me. I think the WBC slide down a slippery slope with this one, because now, they're going to have, anytime there's a situation like this now, what are you going to pick and choose the countries that you want to omit from your rankings? And quite frankly, this is kind of xenophobic to me as well. So this is going to come back to bite the WBC, because again, they'll come out and make statements and have stances on certain things, and they'll always kind of double talk their way out of things. They're like for the franchise designation, for instance, that thing morphed into like 10 different things. When it first started, it was a designation, and then it was non-transferable. Now it's transferable. Now it's the super title. So they're constantly contradicting themselves. They're constantly doing things that are hypocritical. Now they're going to do this, but someone's going to point to, other countries where, things aren't done, quote unquote, the way they should be, or illegally or whatever. and people are gonna be like, what about that? What about this one? What about that one? So now if you're gonna do this, now you're gonna have to police the world, right? So I think this is horrible. I think it sets a horrible precedent. And I think it's just gonna come back to bite the WBC. And I feel bad for all those, Russian people who you don't know what their stance is, right? I mean, even in Russia, the country itself is divided. There's still like Ukrainians that live in Russia as well. So, it's just a mess. And I think the WBC overstepped here, and I think they made a horrible decision in doing this.
Look, I'll say this before I proceed to the next panelist. Look, so I'm sure that if Usyk and Tyson Fury decide that they're going to have their unification fight for Undisputed, right, in Saudi Arabia, I'm positive that the WBC is going to step in and say, no, we can't do it there because they're bombing their neighboring country. We can't do that.
I mean, yeah.
Right? I'm positive, right? I'm positive the WBC will take a stand and say, no, we cannot. We will strip the WBC champion if they go fight for a country that bombs their neighboring country. Since that's the stance you're taking. Like, this is asinine. When we invaded Iraq, no American champions were sanctioned and removed from rankings. So like this idea that, it's because the Russians did it. And here's the worst part. This conflict's been going on for months, and just now you're making this announcement? All of a sudden, because it's a convention? But that's what I think. But Chicano, maybe you feel different.
No, I feel the same, and I agree with everything that I've heard from all three of you all so far. Like, it's pretty clear to me that there's really no one who's relevant right now that's going to take that hit. So it's good timing for them to kind of come in and virtue signal. And it's like, I don't even know if that's their real goal to virtual signal. Like, I'm not really sure why they decided to make this call. Well, like you said, Beeb, like they're not going to be consistent about it. And we all know that. Like when I heard this, I just rolled my eyes because they're not consistent. And so it's just irritating more than anything else. So we'll see how this all plays out in the future, but I just don't care that much. I do not care for the WBC as a sanctioning body.
Well said. Jiffy, you walked into this mess and now you're stuck here with us. So what are your thoughts on the WBC's decision to remove Russian fighters from the rankings?
Well, the first thing I thought was xenophobia. I was thinking you can't do that, and I agree too with them staying out of like politics because it's boxing, and why penalize boxers for something that's happening outside of the ring? I did a little bit more research on it, and I tried to get an understanding of why they would say something like that. And this is the quote that I got from the WBC. The WBC believes in peace, believes in fair play, and believes in human dignity.
Okay.
So I don't agree. But I mean, what can I do? I'm just sitting here. So
can you read that one more time? The quote.
The WBC believes in peace, believes in fair play, and believes in human dignity.
Okay, so I'm sure since Saudi Arabia dropped bombs in Yemen, including a bus full of children, right? I'm sure the WBC is going to take a stand and say, no, Fury, you cannot defend your belt there. If you do, we're going to strip you. I'm positive that like if they're going to stay consistent, right? Will it stay consistent, Jiffy?
I doubt it. And boxing has moving parts. So wherever the money is, that's where the people are. So whatever benefits whoever in a specific time, that's where boxing goes. I always say boxing is like so dramatic, a bunch of drama queens and kings, and we just flow.
Mario, what do you make of WBC's decision?
Yeah, I guess I'm going to go the other way. I think we should start kicking out more nationality. No, I'm just kidding. Look, I agree with all of y'all. This is ridiculous. I mean, look, first of all, the point that D brings up is a good one. Jamal Khashoggi, what about that? What about all the Chinese fighters that have been fighting when their government is, has a track record of, just destroying any of their citizens' civil rights. Cubans, if they got here, they were allowed to fight. It was like, oh, you're going to run for, like, why don't we have that same kind of empathy towards, Russia? Look, I don't want to make this too political either, right? But at the same time, like, if you're trying to make this into like an issue where like, oh, we're sanctioning them, like the way the U.S. sanctions Russia for this. Like, you think that Putin's just sitting at home like, oh no, the Americans took our oil and our bridge, and oh, they're taking boxing. Oh, well, let's end the war right now. Like, of course not. That's moronic. Like, this does nothing to help peace. This does nothing to help anyone. And then, like, here's the problem. You make this line. What line is going to come next? And who decides? Are Trump supporters not going to be able to box anymore? Muslims, Christians, like, where are we going to draw this line, and who makes it? Because at this point, boxing should be the thing that we do, because it's not politics. See, politics is the bullshit. It's the shit where everybody lies to try to get votes. It's a popularity contest. Boxing is the last true fucking thing in this world that is fair, or it should be. It's fair, and it's two men, and it's honest, and it's true, and it's poetic, and it's violent, and it's everything, and we all get to buy tickets and watch, right? And so to try to like come together, and by the way, there's a couple of more quotes real quick. First of all fighters from Russia and Belarus are being WBC rankings. And the WBC came out and said, I wish to express our deep regret for the athletes, the promoters, the members of the boxing industry from Russia and Belarus who will suffer these consequences and the actions outside the ring. The WBC believes in peace, and we had already heard that part. Like, you know what you're doing, but you're still doing it? Like, I do not understand this at all, okay? And by the way, they've made it very clear that they're leaving loopholes in, right? Because they said, well, the WBC considering that they're going to let Bivol, who was born in Russia, and Beterbiev, who was born in Russia, they're going to let them fight. Oh, and anybody else who comes out publicly and rejects Russia's actions, they'll fight. This control the narrative.
Look, I don't even know about that last part. If so, now there's a litmus test to be in the rankings, right? So if you say I condemn, first of all, it's dangerous to ask a fight. Like, if you believe Putin is that dangerous and everything, it's dangerous to ask these fighters to publicly come out and condemn the country, the leader of the country where they live. That's stupid, all right? I mean, this guy gets accused of making like reporters disappear, and you want these fighters to come out and get political? Are you insane? This is crazy. I'm sorry.
Great point.
This is insane. What's next? Oh, you got to. If you're a MAGA guy, you got to condemn Trump, or you don't get to box. All of a sudden, where does it stop? Right? And it's hypocritical because Russia's not the only country bombing their neighboring country, right? And you're holding boxing events in countries like Mario pointed out, where they're breaking all types of like freaking human rights and shit, violations and all that, and you still do fights there. Why? Because they pay you money to make fights there. That's why.
Exactly.
Next, it's going to be guys that are unvaccinated and under the age of 25 are going to be no longer ranked.
Shout out to Jamal. Speaking of the WBC convention, we're going to start with you with this one, Mario. Just bounce it around. Suleiman grants Sampson the request to make Benavidez plant an eliminator to face champion Canelo. But before we go, I need to say this, and everybody wants to comment on this, go ahead. But I hate the fakeness of this convention. I just hate how fake it is. I hate how he already talked to Sampson. He already knew he was going to make this this idea what? Oh, Mauricio didn't know that Plan and Benavidez, are going to fight, and then he just heard it from Samsung, and he's like, yes, good sir, good sir, how you doing, my good sir? I'm courting you, my dear King Suleiman. If you could only make this a fight for undisputed, I'm sorry, a mandatory to face Canelo, good sir. Oh, good sir, that is a great recommendation. I will go ahead and grant you the fights, for the to become the mandatory to fight, our good friend Canelo. It's just so dumb and fake and political, and I hate it, but that's my rant about it. But Mario, what are your thoughts on this, man? They granted the request.
Well, I'm sad that I'm just agreeing with everything. But it's like logic. That's all it is, right? I think that you're absolutely right. It's a sham. Look, I don't want to get into, the history of sanctioning bodies, but it's just clear that it's follow the money and you'll know who's going to make the rankings. Like, you have all of these fights laid out, right? And half of them contain eliminators with men who have just received title shots, who are only a fight away since receiving a title shot. And so I just feel like if you're going to, have these conventions where you kind of like show out and try to make it like it's this actual thing, then you can't leave yourself windows for us to just shit all over you. And that's exactly what you're doing with these types of decisions. And the sad thing is there were some decisions in the convention that made sense, that were actually really good. The four-way for Fulton's belt, that was a cool little thing they did. I don't know if I agree with all the fighters that are in it, but going down the list, this was one of the things that I actually knew for sure was going to happen. But it's follow the money, follow the power, and you'll find out who's getting title shots.
What are your thoughts on Benavidez' Plant being for an eliminator to face Canelo?
I love the fight. I thought it was a great fight, and it works in so many ways. If you want to make these types of eliminators, like, here's the thing, they should have done that a long time ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
If they would have done this 2 years ago, everybody would just be absolutely, they would all have gone 6 to midnight with how great that fight would be for an eliminator to fight Canelo. Now, what are you doing? Like, Plant gets one of those shots in that he got on Terrell, and then you're getting what? Plant Canelo rematch? Like, put yourself in a position where you can win.
He's got to be Benavidez first.
But. Yeah, of course. But still, like, the entire act of it, like, I mean, what are we gonna start having ladder matches? Like, I don't understand. Yeah, that's my.
Yeah, look, and before this would be like what they're doing. It's almost like if, like, I'm about to ask Jiffy the question. It's like I would have contacted her and be, hey, I'm going to say this, and then you're going to say this, okay, and then I'm going to say that, and then that's how we're going to do it on the show, okay? It's like if I would call all the panelists and explain to them how we're going to do it. That's what they're doing at these conventions. But Jiffy, what are your thoughts on them granting this fight? Well, what do you think about this fight?
I love the fight too, and I wouldn't hate to see Plant and Canelo again, and nor would I hate Benavidez and Canelo. I'm on the fence about who's gonna face Canelo, but I really like the fight. I think boxing needs it. I'm a fan of both, and I did hear something about Canelo. He had to get surgery or something. So who knows when that fight would actually happen, when the mandatory happens. But it was my first time hearing about that. Did y'all know about the surgery?
Yes, the hand, yeah. Or the wrist or so.
Yeah.
Have I been under a rock or?
Under a rock for sure, yeah. A big rock.
I know.
The news came out when you were out of town.
Oh, see, I was in a third world country.
Some people think he faked it, but that's another story.
Yeah, probably. I'm sure.
Hey, Chicano. So Sampson, I mean, if only it's a good thing he was there, or else the WBC would never have thought about making this an eliminator. You know what I mean? It's a good thing Sampson was there to make a case, in front of the cameras and all that. But what do you make about this announcement? And do you agree with it? What are your thoughts?
I think it's great, and I do agree with this winner of Benavidez versus Plant being the next guy to face Canelo if Canelo does not go back up to 175 to challenge Bivol, or Bivol possibly going to 168. Other than that, Canelo should be facing the winner of Benavidez versus Plant, and I think this could be Benavidez's time to shine. He's been classified as the boogeyman for a while now. Well, Plant wanted the fight. He said he wanted the fight. On top of that, you got David Morrell calling out Benavidez as well. So this moniker of the boogeyman, like, he might have to earn that back, because now there's people that want to fight him. And before, Ronnie Shields was kind of slowing the brakes on Morrell, possibly fighting Benavidez. But I don't know if you guys saw Ronnie Shields, man. The guy's jumping for joy. He thinks he's got the next big thing. And in his interviews after his last fight, he's saying, hey, Morrell's ready to go. People are going to avoid him. I think Morrell could be the next big thing. So I think it's important for Benavidez and Plant to fight each other to get in line for that Canelo payday, because that Canelo payday might not always be there. If Canelo only fights in September, we don't know what he's going to do, and that might kick him over to May of the next year, right? So you got to start rolling the dice. You got to start making the big fights so you can put yourself to the front of the line, and I love this fight.
All right. Joe B, but what did you make of the announcement here? Do you like this decision by the WBC?
I like the decision, but here's the thing. I don't know when the fight's going to happen, like when Canelo would fight the winner, because they're saying that Canelo will be back in May. That's what Eddie Hearn said. And Canelo said that he'll be back to punch in the bag in about 2 months or so, and then he'll be ready for May. Eddie Hearn already was talking about opponents. Canelo wants Bivol next, but Eddie Hearn was talking about other guys, like John Ryder was being mentioned, Zach Parker, guys. There were other guys at 168 pounds. So I don't think that this winner will be the next opponent for Canelo. I don't think it'll be the immediate opponent for Canelo, because the WBC always has these eliminators, but they still have to order the mandatory fight. So you can win an eliminator, and then they can make you fight another eliminator. We've seen it several times where guys will have to fight 2-3 eliminators just to get a championship fight. Even Dillian White, how many eliminators did he have to fight before he got his mandatory shot against Fury? So I love the fight just because it's quote unquote a mandatory fight for a spot. That doesn't really mean anything. I mean, so I'm not going to cross my fingers. I would love to see Canelo fight the winner of this fight, but it's not going to happen next. So WBC is just kind of blowing smoke.
All right.
This is like a move just to pacify the winner of this fight, to make this fight be more than it really is. It's
so
does
it mean anything when they say when they say this will be a final eliminator, the winner gets Canelo?
Yeah, I mean it's a great fight on its own. Whether it's eliminator or not is irrelevant to me.
All right. Box talk. Wow, Suleiman said it's a final eliminator. The winner gets Canelo, basically. But what are your thoughts on it? You're on mute, brother.
My bad, I was muted. I don't know if it was you that just said it or Joe, but I like the idea of it. The fight itself is great, to be honest, and I don't think it needs that added it's a title eliminator, because to be honest, I think whoever wins that fight, we want to see them fight Canelo anyways, right? Mm-hmm. But just like the execution of it right there at the WBC convention was basically just for show, I think the decision itself is also basically just for show, because if the WBC tells Canelo, hey, you're going to fight this guy next, well, first of all, Canelo's going to do whatever the fuck Canelo wants. Nobody's going to tell Canelo what to do, He's going to fight whoever he wants to fight. And if he doesn't want to fight somebody, he's not going to fight that person. He's going to do whatever he thinks is best for him. So at the end of the day, I don't think the eliminator really, again, does anything. I think it's also just basically for show.
Okay. Yeah, this does feel like a big charade. Reminds me of those movies, like when people court the king, like in Game of Thrones, and I'm just waiting for somebody to call him Your Majesty. Like this crazy, but like a mock trial kind of. It's what it feels like.
If it isn't any of those two guys, I don't know if you guys have taken a look at the rankings, but they are 1 and 2 in the WBC. The next guy after that is Christian Mbali, or however you say his name. I don't think people would be like, oh my God, that's a great fight for Canelo. I don't think people would be jumping up and down for that. The guy after him is ironically a Russian, so he should be gone, right? He should be off the rankings. The guy after him, Anthony Durrell, who just got knocked out.
Fight.
Yeah, like none of it like these are the only guys that make sense.
It was just like they didn't need Sampson on a mic to do, like they could have just announced it. Like if they fight, it'll be a mandatory or whatever, right? But it's they got to do their show. They got to do the little, whatever you want to call it.
Way of handing out a diamond belt without having to hand out a diamond belt. Honestly, that's what it feels like.
So check it out. So we have. They announced that now Golden Boy was there trying to petition for for Virgil to fight Thurman in a eliminator. Obviously that didn't happen, You know what I mean? I'm not sure what's. They just decided that they're going to make Thurman the mandatory to fight Errol Spence. And I'm very confused about this. Virgil was number 1 in the WBC before Thurman came back to fight Mario Barrios, but a win over Mario Barrios, who was coming off a loss at a lower weight class to Tank Davis, somehow leapfrogged him over Virgil, whatever. And now he's mandated to fight, Spence. It doesn't make sense to me, but what do you think is going on here? Box Talk, we'll start with you. That they're mandating the fight with Thurman, brother.
I mean, I think we all kind of saw it coming. I'm not crazy about it. I do think it's better than the other fight that's happening, December 10th on BLK Prime. So I like it more than that, but I don't know, man. It's like, I don't really want to see it. Me personally, I know everybody has different opinions. Me personally, I think Thurman's done, man. I think he hasn't been the same guy since he lost his hair. He's had performances where he fought older guys or guys that haven't done much. He struggled with Josecito Lopez.
Yeah.
He lost to a Pacquiao I think that Pacquiao was shot. That guy beat up an old Lucas Matisse. He beat another guy in Thurman, who I also think was done, and then ultimately lost to Ugas. I just don't like. I look at everything surrounding Keith Thurman in the past couple of years, pretty much ever since that layoff, and I'm like, dude, you had it all. You were the guy at 147. You were the only unified champion in the division, and he just went downhill from there, man. He took too much time off, and ever since he came back, I just don't feel like he was the same guy. And I think he's kind of fighting for relevancy right now. I don't see him beating Errol Spence. Honestly, the Virgil fight might have been more competitive, but I think Virgil beats him too. But he's got enough political ties, I guess. He's done PBC enough favors, maybe even WBC, to still have them throw him in there. Do him some favors now because he helped them a lot early on, and so now I think they're just returning the favor. But I don't want to see that fight, man.
Makes sense. Beeb, we saw guys like Dillian White wait years to be ordered to get their mandatory, but Thurman comes back, beats Barrios, boom, they're ready to go.
Yeah, I mean, this is the relationship that WBC has. This dates all the way back to Floyd Mayweather's tight relationship with the WBC, how he never had to fight mandatories. And who was Floyd Mayweather tied to? Al Heyman. So Al Heyman has developed a relationship with the WBC through Floyd Mayweather. And anytime he needs a favor, all he has to do is dial it in. Can you rank Thurman? I mean, Heyman wants this fight. He wants this fight. Because he knew the Crawford fight wasn't going to get made. And I think Heyman always had this fight in his back pocket. And now by mandating Thurman, now this kind of gives Spence a get out of jail free card, because now people can't call him out and say, hey, you said you would never fight this dude. Oh, God, he's mandatory. It's my mandatory, right? So this all fell into place. It was a plan by Heyman and the WBC, and it all worked itself out just fine. And I'm not thrilled about it. No disrespect to Keith Thurman, but I just haven't been impressed with Keith Thurman in a long time. And I think that he's not the same fighter he once was. I think he's lost a lot. He was a fighter who relied on his legs a lot, and I think he's lost some of his legs. Like, he doesn't have that same spring in his step anymore. I think he's slowed down. And guys like him, that type of style, who use their legs a lot, who their style is based primarily off their legs, his defense is his legs, in and out movement. Because he's slowed down, I think he's easy to catch up to now, and I think he's going to get hit a lot more, and that's why he's looked vulnerable over the years, right? So he's not like a Bernard Hopkins who has a style where it's like a lot of upper body movement, head and shoulders, and stuff like that. It's primarily his legs.
So this is WBC doing a solid for Al Heyman.
Yeah, they're doing a solid for Al Heyman, but I think Thurman's gonna get destroyed if he fights Errol Spence. I don't think it's competitive at all. I think it's a bad fight.
Damn. And then
He can't-
Box Talk mentioned he hasn't been the same since the hair, like the Sampson from the Bible. You know,
He
he hasn't been the same.
Bald
Isn't that-
Thurman's not the same Thurman, man. I'm sorry.
I mean,
He still
Pac-
talks a lot.
yeah, Pacquiao was out, was out maneuvering him in that fight. He was beating him to the punch.
Yeah.
He was cutting off the ring
Good
on
point.
him. He doesn't have his legs anymore.
Good points. Good points. Chicano, WBC, they said, hey, Thurman, he's the mandatory. Let's go. Are you pumped?
About as pumped as a hardcore fan can be, which is not that pumped. It's like y'all are saying, the PBC, they have a relationship with the WBC, and I'm surprised that Golden Boy made a move to like petition something. Like, he should know that, you do that kind of stuff behind the scenes, right? So then the WBC just comes out and mandates it.
I think they did it for clout. Is that why I think they did it?
Well, I think that that's a good question. I mean, it could be, this is a whole nother side subject. I think that Oscar's kind of holding Ortiz back a little bit. That's what I think, but that's another subject.
Gotcha.
So I do think that there are cozy relationships with these sanctioning bodies. There always has been. Some champions can sit on their belt and never fight a mandatory for years. Some all of a sudden have this miracle mandated fight that they have to make, right? And we don't care for the fight. So these type of actions from the WBC does not surprise me.
All right. Jiffy, are you excited? Are you pumped for Thurman versus Spence? WBC ordered you.
I've never been a Thurman fan, and the only reason I can think that maybe this fight is happening because they're both PBC fighters, and it'd just be easier to make the fight. But Thurman's been inactive for years, and nobody wants to see it. And who knows if it actually happens, because Errol Spence is threatening to move up in weight, so he might even vacate the WBC.
Okay.
So I don't know. I'm not dying to see it, but if they fight, I'd probably watch it, honestly. Just
Yeah,
to see
for sure.
Thurman get his ass whooped.
Damn. Okay. All right. Mario, what did you make of the WBC's decision to make Thurman to order this fight, make it a mandatory? Spence, you got to fight him.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because I'll be honest, I had been hearing rumblings that Thurman and Spence was the backup plan if the Crawford fight didn't get done. This was like back in maybe September. So I always had a feeling this fight was going to happen. I'll be honest, I'm not as down on the fight as everybody else seems to be, or I wasn't. If you looked at it just as a macro, from outside, it was like, okay, well, one of these guys is fighting David Avanesyan, and the other guy's fighting Keith Thurman. If we want that fight and they're somehow going to come back to the table for 2023, then these guys got to get a fight in. If you're going to be anybody, Keith Thurman's better than a lot of other names. He was never going to fight Verge. He was never going to fight Boots. He was never going to fight Jonas. He was never going to fight anybody that hardcore fans would have gotten up for. So you look at it, I think it goes back to exactly what Beeb said. This achieved two things. One, it gives Spence an out on saying I'd never fight Thurman. That's definitely a valid point. In fact, I think it's spot on. The other thing it does is put some sort of measure, what it does is it allows them to burst this, promotion and kind of put it on the back of this, him being the new, guy that's going to fight Spence, and can he take the belt, and, all this stuff. He was always going to fight Thurman. This is a situation of the chicken and the egg. What came first? Well, if the fight's the chicken, and finding a way to make it make it a title shot or make it whatever you wanted to do and heighten the promotion, well, then that was the egg. So WBC came along, threw the egg at the fucking fight, and now it's, covered in yolk, and it looks like a joke. And I just don't understand why they think they have to do things like this to enhance the viewing pleasure. But real quick, I do want to make one other point. I absolutely agree that this De La Hoya's whole position in this was to kind of make a big stance for nothing because he knew nothing was going to come out of it.
Okay, all right. Slight tendencies. Thurman can't rely on his mobility no more. I appreciate the support, brother. Make sure you guys hit the like button, by the way. I'm at an abysmal 19 likes right now. Okay, hit that like button. All right, what's going on? That's an all-time low for me. All right, make sure after 50 minutes, make sure you hit the like button. All right, And especially we're gonna go to Calix. You gotta hit the like now. You know what I mean? Like, hey, but Calix, look. So obviously the question is about, Spence. He's being mandated to fight Keith Thurman now by the WBC. This is a decision they made after they were offered by Golden Boy, right? Because out of all the fake shit going on, the only one I believed, was Roberto Diaz when he stood there and he said, hey, how about we do Thurman against, Virgil Ortiz? The winner, gets the chance. Like, I thought that was a great offer, but they didn't take it. But what you make of it?
A make of it is what I said back in June when they pushed him up to number one ahead of Stanionis and ahead of Virgil Ortiz is Al Heyman made a phone call, obviously. This is the fight they've been wanting. And I understand the points that Mario is making about, on a macro level, I understand we have top 10 matchups now, right? Crawford versus Avanesian, Spence versus Thurman. I completely get that. The issue with it is the fight doesn't need to be marinated even more than it's already been marinated. That's number one. They were both coming off of great wins. Sean Porter stops him. Ugas stops him. You've got your buildup right there, and it's going to be as big as it's going to be at this point. It's not going to get any bigger. In fact, it's only going to get smaller at this point. So my issue with this is we need movement in this godforsaken division that is loaded with talent, but it's unrealized potential because nobody's fighting each other. It's a locked division at the top because 1 and 2 for 5 years haven't fought each other. And on top of that, Keith Thurman needs to serve his purpose at this point in his career, which he's unwilling to do. And for obvious reasons, if he's going to get a bigger fight, then why not take it? But Keith Thurman's purpose at this point is to be the glorified gatekeeper. Danny Garcia is not going to be that because he moved up to 154, and now he wants to fight for a middleweight title at 155. Keith Thurman is the only guy in the division besides Spence and Crawford that I see that has a name, has clout that these younger guys can chase off of. And that's the issue is we're being told that the young guys can't face each other because they're too early in their career, which is a lie. So who is Boots supposed to fight? Who is Virgil supposed to fight? Who is Stanionis supposed to fight? Whatever happened to Cody Crowley? Where'd he go? Connor Ben, God only knows when he's going to fight again. So where's the movement going to happen in this division? And this puts us off once again till 2023 before we have any movement in this division. Man, for God's sakes, if Crawford and Spence are going to fight each other, just move up to 154. Do something else because something has to happen to where these younger guys can get their fights. Because we all want to see what's going to happen to Boots, what's going to happen to Virgil. That's what we want to see at this point. It's 2022. If Spence and Crawford are going to fight each other, I'm not interested.
Yeah, I hear you, brother. But check this out. Now, I'll be honest with you. If Crawford was fighting Ortiz and if Spence was fighting Boots, I'd be interested. And they fight these young lions. But no, like the old lion's fighting an older lion. What's going on over here? Like, what do you mean the older? Like what's going on? I don't know. I don't get it. Right? Now, I don't know age-wise, but the Thurmans, I mean, he looks like 40. I don't know how old he is, but he looks the part. I'm just saying. All right? Dude hasn't been the same since he lost his hair, like the dude in the Bible. Or just like that. He ain't the same. All right? Just like Casasu when he lost a rat tail. Wasn't the same. Lost to Ricky Hatton. It is what it is. You know what I mean? Teresa D, I appreciate your support. D-Cell needs a drink, LOL. Thank you so much for the support. Much appreciated.
Had too many drinks.
But check this out. We're going to bounce it around Calix. Wilder Ortiz. WBC at it again. They said final eliminator. The winner gets the WBC champion. What are your thoughts?
Is the universe really going to give us Wilder versus Fury 4? Is that what's going to happen here? Like, it seems like the universe is just trying to bring us back. It's like a gravitational pull, right? So Fury versus Wilder 4. They want everybody to rip each other's throats out again. They want YTBC race wars once again. Like, it just seems like we're gravitating right back to
Paradox again.
Fury versus egg weights, all kind of stuff. It looks like they're trying to push it back to that. But once
love
again, man, why does boxing do this? Why? I actually got a little bit excited when Wilder's pay-per-view numbers were horrible, and that's not to, I'm not wishing bad things upon him, but one thing you'll get from Wilder's pay-per-view numbers being bad, Jake Paul's pay-per-view numbers being bad, is they'll start to entertain going across the pond where the big fights are available to them. Because there are big fights available to Wilder across the pond. There are big fights available to a Jake Paul across the pond, and they'll start to entertain them. Wilder versus Ruiz, I know boxing fans think this is some sort of big fight, but it's not going to do pay-per-view numbers, and it doesn't do anything for Wilder's legacy. It just doesn't. He needs the big fight to solidify himself, and Fury's not going to be that guy. He can fight Fury 10 times. He's going to lose 10 times. He's got to figure out a way to get to Joshua, a way to get to Joe Joyce, somebody like that, in order to get his big victory in his career. And this right here doesn't take him in that direction.
All right, okay. Mario.
I'm gonna interrupt you guys real quick because I think you guys keep saying Wilder versus Ortiz.
Ruiz.
Ruiz,
Oh, my bad.
Yeah.
Did I say Ortiz? If I said Ortiz,
You both said it, so I was like, wait, did I miss something?
My bad. Imagine. Jesus Christ.
I know. I was like, wait, what the fuck? I didn't know what I heard.
So thank you
Hey,
for that.
don't put that on us. No.
Mario Munguia. Are you excited? Ruiz versus Wilder? You know, the Mexican destroyer versus the bronze bomber? This is it. Live on pay-per-view.
Listen,
You ready?
Y'all know I'm excited, and I think some of y'all know why I'm excited.
But you need the fat Mexican to hook you up after what Wilder said about you.
Exactly. Listen, in 2016, Deontay Wilder put out a video on Instagram calling me a fat Mexican. And ever since then, I've been waiting, anticipating Andy Ruiz. Please make that fight. So I am excited. I love the fight.
Is he representing you?
Oh, yeah, 100%. Oh, he's not just representing me. He's representing my niece who was pissed when that happened, my wife who was pissed when that happened. But it doesn't need this. In fact, it kind of ruins it because now I'm going to go into the fight like, oh, my God, I was rooting for Ruiz. And now I need Ruiz to win because no way we can get Wilder Fury 4. It's like I feel like boxing fans did something together and like the boxing gods are just punishing us, and we're going to get like 7 of these fights by the time it's all said and done.
That's out of 7. You hear?
That's what it's the World Series of boxing apparently. But I do think that there is something interesting about it in terms of Ruiz winning. I don't think that he has a shot of beating any of the guys that are going to end up with that belt, whether it be Usyk or Fury. But hopefully what it gives him is the motivation he needs to, get to another level. Because if anybody in the sport of boxing seems to need motivation to get beyond themselves because they're their own worst enemy, it's certainly Andy Ruiz.
Gotcha, babe. What you making? Are you excited? Does it make sense to you? Are you ready for that 4th fight?
No, because I think Wilder will fight Joshua. I think Wilder will beat Ruiz. Joshua will fight someone like a Wall and he'll win. And I think they'll make the Wilder Joshua fight. That's what I think they'll do. They're already talking right now. This time Shelly Finkel's actually responding to Eddie Hearn, so that's a good sign, right? They're actually talking. They're not just sending shadow emails towards each other, right? So I think that'll be the next fight. And it's sort of like this Fury Chisora situation. Everyone's so mad about this fight. And I'm not telling people they have to like it, but Fury's gonna fight Usyk in the spring. We're pretty sure that's gonna happen. So we know we're gonna get that fight. And if Wilder fights Joshua, I love that fight. I think that fight's phenomenal. Who wouldn't like that fight? I think that fight from a stylistic matchup is a phenomenal fight. I mean, and I'm sure people are going to be split down the middle who wins that one. So that's a fight that we don't know who's actually going to win, right? So both guys are rebuilding themselves. It has a story behind it. I think it's a great fight.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but if the PBC petitioned for this in any way, shape, or form, they have every intention to try to go for that WBC.
I doubt it. Because I think the Joshua fight is a huge money fight, and I think they'll do that. And that Fury fight, because Fury's going to fight for Undisputed. These guys will get their fights. Fury's going to fight Chisora. Wilder's going to fight Ruiz. Joshua will fight somebody. Everyone's going to win. And then while Fury's fighting for the undisputed, Joshua and Wilder can fight, and the winner of that could fight for the undisputed. You see what I'm saying? That's a better plan.
Jiffy, are you excited for this fight? It's an eliminator. You know what I mean? The Destroyer versus the blonde, like the I was gonna say blonde bomber versus the bronze bomber. You know what I mean?
So I'm always excited to see Andy Ruiz fight. I don't want to see Deontay fight. My first thoughts were there any other candidates? And then I thought, well, how is Deontay still number one in WBC? And I'm not excited to see Deontay fight Fury again. I'm sure he will be. I'm sure he believes that he can beat him at some point in his life. But I would be worried to see Ruiz fight Fury. I don't know. I'm on the fence. I don't really like the fight per se, but I still watch it.
Yeah, you know, have you guys seen the movie The Gladiator? Well, when Maximus looks at that guy and he says, "In this life or the next, I will get my vengeance." like he can't be Fury in this life, in the next life, in the life after that. Like he's never gonna beat him, in my opinion.
But he always believes that he will and that he can. So that's what I think. That's what makes viewers continue to watch, because we see a different Deontay every time, and it's like, okay, well, who is he going to be this time? Is it possible? But
yeah, shout out to Coach in the chat. How you doing, brother? Hey, Chicano, what you making the fight, brother? Are you excited?
Yeah, I am kind of excited. A couple of roundtables ago, you kind of did like a who do you have top 5 in the heavyweight division, and Wilder and Ruiz were always pretty close to each other. You know, some people had strong opinions, and I don't know how that would change for people now that Wilder's knocked out Helenius. But I think
Maestro and G Funky had him top 3.
Well, I know I didn't. You know, that's for damn sure. I would have Wilder above Ruiz. I still have him above Ruiz, and I'll tell you, man, like this is going to be a good fight. I think that Wilder will beat Ruiz, and for some reason, and I'm glad that Mario Munguia is not here, and this isn't personal, but I just don't like Ruiz, so I'm going to start a Mexicans for Wilder group because I've always liked Wilder. I've always liked him, so I'm rolling with him.
Well, there you go. There you go. All right. Box Talk, what do you think of this fight, and do you think it makes sense to make it for a final eliminator?
You're on mute.
Yeah, you're on mute.
My bad. I'm not crazy about the fight. But when I look at the landscape of the heavyweight division, I'm like, all right, well, what else is there? I don't think we're going to get like some of the younger lions in there right now, or Frank Sanchez or Hrgovic or those guys, Zhilei Zhang. I don't think they're going to get thrown in the mix with those guys right now. So I'm like, you know what? I'm not mad at it, I guess. They're 2 top 5 guys. But I actually kind of side with Chicano because I'm like, I'm not really high on Ruiz, man. I haven't been. I feel like he had his moment, right? And I look at everything else the guy has done since then. I see he's got a YouTube channel. I see he's in music videos, all this other stuff that has nothing to do with boxing. And so for me, I'm kind of like, I don't know, man. Then you got this guy Wilder who is persistent as hell. He's the guy that keeps asking out the girl and she keeps telling him no. She keeps telling him no. She keeps telling him no. He's like, no, but you're gonna like me and blah blah. And he thinks every time he goes in there, man, he can beat anybody. And so I give him credit for that. I mean, he's lost to Fury like 3 times now, arguably, and he still wants that fight, man. So I can't do anything but respect the guy who is a fighter through and through. So
put that respect. Sure.
Yeah, I
know. He did just make a music video. Did you see it?
Yes, I did see that, and I was like, "Oh, dude, what are you doing, man? What are you doing?"
You know what? I will say, it sounds the same as all the other shit I hear right now. Like,
Is he a singer or a rapper?
I think he's in between, and there's a lot of auto tune.
It's like T-Pain.
I was bumping in the truck earlier.
Nah, bro, I can't do it, man.
Like the auto tune was real with that one.
It was very real.
You
I
know what
like
mean?
Wilder, but I was
auto-tune-
like, nah, man, come on, man.
It's just too bad you can't put his left hand on auto tune. Like maybe he'd be a better boxer. You know what I mean? Like it's just a little too bad you can't put boxers on auto tune in the ring. You know, it's just
Hey,
you know, it is what it is.
people do need to realize this though. When they have these conventions, a lot of these fights that get mandated at these conventions don't end up happening. Like nobody believes that Isak Cruz is going to fight Shakur Stevenson. Like
Right.
I don't believe it.
mandated. Well, I actually want to touch on that, and I'll bounce it around to you guys again. I'll start with you again, Box Hawk. So, what are your general thoughts? And just real quick, guys, but what are your general thoughts on these conventions? Like
They're for show, bro. It's a play. Everybody's got a script. Apparently, the only one that didn't get a script was Oscar because he probably saw freaking what's his name, Sampson, request that one fight be mandated for Canelo between the winner of Plan Benavidez. I think Oscar De La Hoya saw that. He's like, oh, that's all I gotta do. I just gotta request. I just gotta bring it up. So he brought up the Virgil thing and he got shut down. So I think he didn't get the memo that it's already scripted. It's a show, man. It's what it is. It's a play.
okay, Chicano, what are your general thoughts about the whole thing?
Man, besides what I've already said, I feel the exact same way as Box Talk 101.
Jiffy?
I'm confused about. Okay, so I know they had other conventions, and then this WBC convention, it seemed way different than the other conventions, and I'm just confused. Are they going to be honored? Do they have to honor it? So they don't. It's not. It's just suggestions. People. I mean, we're just we're going to church
Pretty
or to
much.
court, and everybody's voting. So, at the end of the day, if it doesn't mean anything, then it's like they're clout chasing. They want us to talk about it. They want to give us something to talk about, I guess.
Yeah.
Because some of the fights that they ordered, I don't see them actually happening. I think some promoters might think they're very risky fights.
Yeah. Babe, do you see any legitimacy in any of this? Is it all for sure? What's the point of it in your opinion?
It's for optics. They like to, put this perception out there that we're this organized, honorable, we do the right thing all the time. A lot of what they do is virtue signaling. As I said, all you have to do is read their rules. Just because you win an eliminator does not mean you're guaranteed a shot. If you're the mandatory fight still has to be ordered at the WBC's discretion. So just look at all the rules, and each rule ends with at the WBC's discretion, right? So pretty much says we'll do what we want when we want. And, they have a get out of jail free card for all of their rules. You hear fighters complain like that. How many eliminators has David Benavidez fought? And then they just said, okay, dude, we'll make you the interim champ just to pass. So it's like I said, it is just for the optics of it all. And they bring everyone in the room. And it's like, yeah, everyone has a say, but no, not really, because we already knew what we were going to do before you guys came and showed up. So you're just here to just pretend that you have a say, but you really don't.
There's no doubt in my mind that Mauricio and Sampson win something like this. You guys ready? Okay. Hey, Mauricio, how you doing? How you doing? My name is Sampson. Hey, nice to meet you. They already know each other, by the way, but they got to do it anyway. Oh, Sampson, how are you doing? I hear that Benavidez will be fighting Plant. They will be fighting soon, hopefully. And what do you hear? I'm here, to petition Mauricio. So just make sure you mention that Canelo has an injury. Bring that up and say that, I will present my case, and then you go ahead and say that I'm going to say that you should make the fight, whatever, right? They already talk about what they're going to do before they do it. Mauricio's talking about Canelo's injury, and then Samsung's already there waiting with the mic. He's already there. I want a petition for, I don't know if you guys have thought about this, but how about Benavidez and Plant? And you make it a final eliminator. What do you think about that, Mauricio? They didn't think about that already?
They have these these offline conversations and these phone calls, and they just say, "Hey, we'll talk about it when we're at the convention." That's all. It's already predetermined, like you said.
It's already predetermined, and it's like they got to grovel to the feet of Mauricio Suleiman. You know what I mean? Oh, Mauricio, can you please, move my fighter up from 7 to 8, from 7 to 6? Please, Mauricio. Oh, Mauricio, can you move me from 4 to number 3, please? Oh, Mauricio, we're going to make a nice donation to the WBC Cares. But that aside, I would appreciate it. I could become the mandatory to the champion. Calix, what do you make of this whole thing?
Same. I mean, pretty much everything that everybody said. It's for optics, and it's great for media that go out there because it's great for clicks, right? So it's all clicks. It's all getting what we need to get out there, and that's pretty much it. It's not something that if I wasn't on Twitter, this isn't something that I would follow.
But there's one thing you're forgetting about this convention. There's a really good buffet at the convention, man.
Yeah, they got a good buffet. Yeah. And then you don't think the dude that pitches in for the buffet to get people, you don't think their fighters get good rankings after the convention? I'm pretty sure they do. I'm just saying. You know what I mean?
Did anyone else think of Dan Rafael?
There you go. This dude probably he brought the freaking pork tacos. Oh, his fight is moving up from 8 to 9. From 9 to 7 for sure.
There's There's a lot of kissing of the ring at these things, I'm sure, and a lot of greasing of palms. So just keep that in mind.
I'm just saying, you know what I mean? You think people fall in love with a stripper? Like these dudes are throwing money at the WBC. They're making it rain out there. I'm just saying, okay? I'm just saying. Abib, Super Chat wants to know where's Jerry.
Jerry!
Where's he at, bro?
We took him out last week, man. He's like someone's giving him the smelling salts right now. We took him out last week.
Jeez. All right. Look, there's some fights this weekend. All right. So this Estrada's in a fight. We're not going to talk about the actual fight itself, unless somebody thinks it's going to be an upset. I guess you could say. But Superbad is heavily favored. She moved promotional company. She didn't feel she was going anywhere with Golden Boy. She went to Top Rank. She's from East LA. We know that Bob Arum, Top Rank, turned one fighter from East LA into a superstar. His name was Oscar De La Hoya. Now that was a different time. Oscar was a gold medalist. He was already well known before. But can Top Rank do it again with another fighter from East LA? Can they turn Superbad into a superstar? She has 2 strikes against her. She's a woman, and she's in the lower weight classes, right? Mm-hmm. So 2 strikes. Jiffy, can Top Rank turn her into a superstar? Does she have the makings to be a superstar in the sport?
In my opinion, she was already a superstar with Golden Boy. So I'm interested to see what Top Rank can do with her, because it's been taking so long for her to even get a fight. And Top Rank, I think the only other girl that they've had is Michaela, and I didn't see them promote her as much as they promote the guys. So I'm not sure that I'm not sure if they're even interested in turning a woman into a superstar. I think if she becomes a superstar, it's not going to be because of Top Rank.
Yeah, what I'll say about it is if somebody has a blueprint to creating a superstar, it's Bob, right? Bob is the best in the business still. Top Rank is still, all these years later, the best in the business at putting their finger on who the young talent is, although she's been around for a while, but they find the young talent and they bring them up like a farm system and create superstars. And the other promoters basically pick off those superstars once Top Rank has built them, for the most part. So if somebody's going to do it with Seniesa, it's going to be Bob. But the thing about Seniesa, the thing about women's boxing that we've seen is all you need is the rival. Once you got that rival, that's what you need to get. So does she have the rival is the big, that's the last piece of the puzzle. But I'll say that. Right.
Oh, but yeah, she had the rival like Golden Boy.
But there will be cross promotion going on with women's boxing. There will be cross promotion there. So she needs a rival in order to build her into a boxing star. Now, here's the thing with her, though, is she's going to be a star regardless. If it's not as a boxer,
Mm-hmm.
she's going to be on TV commentating. She's got a bright future ahead of her. You see that. She's got a bright future
Yeah.
ahead of her, even if it doesn't work with boxing. But she's in the right place, in my opinion, if she's going to be a boxing star.
Babe, same question to you, brother.
I'm a little skeptical of the move. Top Rank really hasn't gotten behind women's boxing. I think a better move would have been for her to go to Matchroom. I think she could have still stayed on the zone, and there would have been. It's easier to do cross promotions with Oscar because he works with the zone as well. And Eddie has a lot of female fighters as well, and I think he's done a great job with Katie Taylor, who I think is probably leading the way right now for the women. No disrespect to Clarissa Shields, but Katie is the one that's making the real money. She's fighting in the big stadiums. She's headlining very often, right? And she's been on some big shows. So, is it better than Golden Boy? Yeah, but I think optimally, she probably should have went to the zone with Eddie Hearn. I think Eddie Hearn's done a great job with the females.
Okay. All right. And just to clarify, yes, Top Rank is that guy. He actually said nobody cares about women's boxing when they asked him about going head to head against Katie versus Serrano. I don't know why he said that, but it is what it is. Box talk. Can Arum make some magic here and turn into a boxing star?
I don't know because time isn't on his side with Seniesa. She's 30, I believe. But I think if anybody can do it, I do think Top Rank is the best at doing that. They'll find something in you, something about your upbringing. They'll find something, and they'll make a storyline out of it. Right away when they signed her and they didn't put her on the greatest card. She's the co-main event to the upcoming fight this weekend with Janabek headlining. And they're very gimmicky. They put her in the cape right away, right? Superbad, Seniesa, Estrada. They put her on the poster, and that's what they do, man. They're very, very good storytellers. I think they're the best in the business at doing that. So maybe, because I think what she does lack there is the opponents. Maybe they'll find somebody to throw in there with her. I'm not really sure because I know Golden Boy was able to do that with Esparza, with Marlene. That was a great fight. That was an amazing fight, and it still didn't really bring up the profile of Seniesa in the way that I feel like it should have, because that to me is still her best performance to date, and maybe as far as the eye can see, that'll be her best performance of her career. So like for example, when Golden Boy picked up Yoka, I expected that fight to be made. They're in the same weight class, I believe, if not very similar. And I was like, oh man, there they go. They found another person for her, right? But the more I thought about it, I was like, well, it's not going to do anything for her anyways, because she already had an amazing win, a better win, I think, in Marlene, and it still didn't bring up her profile. So maybe Top Rank can do it. I know they haven't really done that great of a job with Michaela. But if I'm going to be completely honest, I think Michaela is a little more bland. There's maybe not so much of a story to tell there. If they haven't found it, then I don't know. Maybe there's not much there. But I think there's a lot to tell with Seniesa, and I think Top Rank can tap into that. Hopefully they can, because I want to see her do well.
Yeah.
Chicano, she's got 2 strikes against her, right? Can the Bobfather turn into a superstar?
Well, I think they're going to try. I agree with Box Talk 101. I think that the Top Rank machine is very good at storytelling. I like a lot of their promo packages that they do for their boxers. And I think this will be the best exposure. Although B makes a really great point. Like as far as like a career goes, maybe she would have been better off with Matchroom. But I think it's a good match. Also, I think a lot of this is going to be up to Estrada herself. She has a good story. I think her looks fit her personality, and she's got great potential, just like Calix was saying in general. So I think a lot of it's going to be up to her. In general, I tend to think that it's up to the boxers to promote themselves to an extent these days, and I feel pretty strongly about that. It is the promoter's job too, as the promoter, but I think a lot of that falls on the boxer as well.
Okay, all right. Here's what I'll say. Seniesa is clearly one of the most talented female boxers I've ever seen. I mean, ever. She is unbelievably talented. like I have a lot of respect for Roberto Diaz as a matchmaker, and Golden Boy usually doesn't make these terrible mistakes, but they gave her some bad publicity when they put her in there with that one girl that was like she didn't belong in the ring.
Like I stopped right away.
Yeah, like as soon as the bell rang, I never seen this in a professional boxing fight. Like the woman, like she looked scared. Like I was like, what? And then she just knocked her out like in a second or two. That kind of like I remember I interviewed Christy Martin after she even brought that fight up and said, "Oh, that fight set us back 3-4 steps." Like, you know, and I'm like, man, really? Like it got a lot of bad publicity for her, right? She's just too good to have thrown her in the ring like that. And I don't know if that was the beginning of like her losing respect for Golden Boy. Like well, why do you put me in there with the girl that literally was doing bikini boxing against strippers and somehow ended up in a fight with Seniesa Estrada? I don't know how that happened, but it was definitely a bad look. And then from there, like it's just, yeah, it was a little too late. I think they put her on the mic and just, she's really good at breaking down the fights. She definitely has a future in that. Just don't have her break down Marlene fights, because I'm going to be 100% honest with everybody. She showed that she doesn't like Marlene when she commentated her fight.
Yeah.
And you got to be a little more professional than that. But other than that, what she doesn't do in Marlene fight, she's just phenomenal, right? Because she was throwing backhanded compliments at Marlene the whole night. You know what I mean? Like I'm just saying. But with that said, hey, it is what it is. She's going to move on. We're going to see where it takes her. But speaking of that card, Jana Beck is going to be fighting Bentley. Some people give him. If anyone here has Bentley winning, you let me know. I think Jana Beck easily wins this fight. But is Jana Beck as good as advertised? Is he the real deal, or are we reading a little too much at the fact that Andrade didn't fight him? So maybe that's making people look at him like a boogeyman. But does he really deserve the boogeyman status, right? Jiffy, I'll start with you. Is Jana Beck that boogeyman like that?
I'm not sure. I tried to see like who he's been matched up against, and I don't know who Denzel Bentley is. All I know is that he has 14 knockouts of 17 or 18 fights. And I thought, oh, okay, well, this is a great matchup. So it'd be interesting to see. So I don't know. I don't have like a real answer for you, but I'm curious to see. You guys teach me some things.
So the jury's out.
Yeah, it's out.
Okay, all right. Calix, how do you feel? Are we reading too much into the fact that he like Andrade wouldn't fight him, or like what? How do you feel about the guy?
What do we say on the channel all the time? We can tell almost everything we need to know about a fighter by two things: how their handlers handle them, and how their peers in and around the weight class react when their name is brought up. And when his name is brought up, all I'm saying is nobody wants to go there. And his handlers want to be aggressive with his career. So unfortunately, it's not going to develop for him anytime soon. So he's going to have to take the route of his fellow countrymen who did it before him. You have to fight as often as possible against the best opposition available to you and give us highlight reel KO after highlight reel KO until someone in the division has to step up and fight you. For Golovkin, he got the Danny Jacobs fight eventually, and then he got the Canelo fight eventually. But it took him mowing down the best competition available to him every 4 months until that finally happened. But he consistently did it. So the thing you want to do with Jana Beck is keep him busy, keep him busy. Unfortunately, we're going to have a lot of fights like this. Denzel Bentley is a good fighter, but Jana Beck's a 20-1 favorite. This is what it is. I mean, he's going to go in there. He's going to mow Denzel Bentley down. But to answer your question, it's impossible to say right now because of the eye test. But from the two criteria I gave you, I think he's more Gennady Golovkin than he is a Beck the Bully or a Philip Herzogov, right, who we saw have some trouble against Zhang. He's a guy, much like what you're talking about, right? When Herzogov everybody was coming up as mandatory, what did like 6-7 guys defer? and say I didn't want to fight him, and then he fights Zhang, and he looked normal. He looked ordinary. So that's the thing. We don't know, but I just think that Janibek, if you watch him fight, he's a very layered fighter. He's a layered fighter. He's got short shots. He sets everything up intelligently. He works behind the jab. He works off of feints, and everything is short, and he's got power in both hands. So I just think this division right here, this is a terrible, terrible division, like historically bad. Jamal is wherever. Boo Boo is wherever. Chris Eubank Jr. is wherever. And we've got Janibek right there, who seems to be the only guy who wants to take over the division.
All right. Okay. Beeb. Is Janibek the real deal, in your opinion? Does he deserve that right to be the boogeyman? Or are we reading too much into the fact that Andrade wouldn't fight him? Was it more of a financial thing, political thing? What do you make of it?
The Andrade matchup would have been a good fight. I actually would have leaned towards Andrade in that fight. Janibek's definitely a solid guy. As Kalik said, he's being compared a lot to Gennady Golovkin. He's heavy-handed. He's got a very stiff, hard jab, right? And he's very fundamentally sound. He's kind of like the basic Eastern European type fighter style, right? High guard, likes to stalk his opponents, places his shots well, doesn't waste a lot of punches, doesn't throw wild looping shots. Very, very precise with his shots. Is he the real deal? I think he's solid. The division's starting to become a little thin now, right? You got Golovkin, who's kind of is being aged out right now. He's getting up there in age. Outside of Golovkin, you got Chris Eubank Jr. Who else do you have right now in this division? So he could have come along at the right time, and he may be the guy, right? He may be the guy. We'll see. Can he beat Golovkin right now? I think it'd be a good match. I think it would be a good. I thought
we'll never know.
I thought Derevyanchenko actually beat Golovkin, right? And is Janibek as good as Derevyanchenko right now? The eye test tells me he's probably better, right? He's bigger, he's a little stronger, he's he's a little bit more versatile, right? Because he's tall and long, and as Kalik said, he can fight on the inside, he can shorten up shots, but he can also fight on the outside. So I think you can make an argument, but he still has to go out and do it. But I think he does have the potential to be the guy at middleweight. I think he can be Golovkin's heir apparent right now, in my opinion.
Oh, damn. Box Talk 101. Is this all hype? Is a lot of helium here, or is he as advertised?
I think it's still too soon to tell, man. I think he's a good fighter, but he's got 12 fights. I don't know. He could be the greatest middleweight we see for the next 5-7 years. Or he could be quote unquote exposed in the very next fight. I wouldn't be surprised either way, to be honest. I watch him and I think he's good. I don't see any major flaws or anything, but I don't know, man. I'm still on the fence. I don't want to jump the gun too soon and say this guy is the next Triple G, because Triple G set a high bar, man, if you ask me, and people weren't crazy about his opponents for a really long time. And if that's going to be the case, well, then we could say the same thing about Janibek. Right now we can.
Damn. There you go. Hey, Chicano, is this just like do you think like a domino effect happened after Andrade didn't take the fight and he's being kind of made more than what he is, or do you think he's a real deal?
I do think that Andrade probably did duck him, but I think it's too early to tell as well. On top of that, Calix also made a great point that, the middleweight division isn't all that great right now. And on top of there, like only being a few fighters at the top, there's not much depth there, so when you compare him to somebody like Golovkin and is he the next guy who's going to scare everybody, I think it's too early to tell. He hasn't had enough fights because there's no depth. Has he had like a Rubio fight, a Gil fight? Like I know that we're talking about Golovkin when he kind of got towards that Jacobs era, but he still hasn't had those other types of fights like Martin Murray. I just think he's got a very well, it's not probably not his fault, but his resume is not all that great. So it's too soon to tell, in my opinion. But I do like his style, and I do think he could be the next guy at the division. I'm excited to see where he goes.
Back to you, Chicano. I'm going to ask everyone in the panel this. On paper, he's a big favorite. Do we have a problem with boxing with mismatches right now?
We absolutely. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh yeah, you're going to me. Yes, I think we absolutely have a problem with mismatches, and there's a lot of good points that I know will be made here coming up with the rest of the panelists. But yeah, it's starting to become a problem. Cox has made a great point about fighter safety, and I've seen it for a while now. I don't like mismatches at all. I kind of gave it a pass during the COVID era, during the pandemic, but for some reason we still see these crazy mismatches, and the odds for some of these fights are so wide. It's hard to even parlay and make money. So it doesn't really do the sport any justice. And on top of that, sometimes people can just make a career off kind of just doing those tune-up type fights, and it slows down the advancement of all these fighters. So it is a real problem. I don't really think there's a solution for it. I think it's just kind of settled in, and we just kind of have to get used to it because besides fighters who go on and take top challenges, like it's everywhere from all angles, matchmakers, promoters. I mean, it's all over the place.
Box talk, just in general, not just this fight, but does boxing have an issue with mismatches, in your opinion?
Yes. And I think this weekend, for example, is the perfect example because you look at the card, the card just, and I don't mean to like put Top Rank on the spot. It's just they're the only ones really doing anything this weekend. But you look at the card and you're like, dude, I don't know who any of these guys are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the opponents, anyways, right? So is there problems with mismatches? Yeah, I think so. Especially when it comes to like undefeated guys, because everybody wants to keep that O. And so they'll keep fighting guys who really don't belong in there with them for as long as they can, just so they can keep that O. Yeah, there's a huge problem with mismatches. But I do give a ton of credit when guys, I guess, step out of their comfort zone. The guy I can think of most recently specifically is like a Gilberto Ramirez, because I was always a huge critic of like, dude, who is this guy fighting? He's 4,900-0 and he hasn't fought anybody. And then he fought Bivol, man. And I was like, you know what? Good for you, man. He lost, but it's okay. It's not the end of the world. It's one loss, and huge step up for him, man. So I really like that he did that. It took him forever, but he did it. And so when guys really come out of their shell and are willing to take, those 50-50 fights, I can't do nothing. I can't do anything but respect that.
Joe B, do we have an issue with mismatches in boxing, in your opinion?
You already know the answer to this. I mean, who's been on the soapbox preaching about this? Look at the odds for these fights. 15-1 plus 1,500 plus 1,200. I'm looking at the fights coming up. Plus 1,200. These are all crazy mismatches. Plus 1,400. These are like 14-1, 18-1, 20-1. All of them. Yeah. It's disgraceful. Everyone wants to talk about PEDs and people putting their lives on the line, but then you got a guy like Rod Salka fighting Danny Garcia. That's more dangerous than anything, really. I mean, we see guys who are getting carried out of there, who don't belong in there with certain guys. I mean, I think when you reach a certain point, the commissions need to be called out on this too. They sanction some of these fights, and I think they need to really take a second look, because a lot of these fighters do not belong in there with guys who are significantly like 10 levels above them. It's dangerous. People are going to get hurt, and people have gotten hurt more so than this. There are other things that people have this outrage about boxing. You don't hear people complaining about the mismatches. Mostly people complain about, oh, it's not a good fight. They complain about it from an entertainment standpoint, but no one really says, oh, that guy can get hurt in there.
That's a good point. Calix, we've talked about people looking at everything from the A-side fighters' perspective, not from fighters in general. But I know the answer to this, but what are your thoughts?
Yeah, and that was going to be my first point again, just to reiterate, is when people talk about fighter safety, when you hear them, they always view it from the perspective of the A-side fighter when they're viewing fighter safety. It's, oh, we can't put these fighters in tough every fight because it's not good for their safety. Well, what about the fighter that they're taking a break on, who won multiple fights in which he was an underdog in order to earn his shot at fighting the A-side fighter who's going to take a break against him by beating his face in. It's not safe for that fighter either. We don't look out for the B-side fighter. And that's my issue is, and if we want to do that, that's fine. But don't say you're for fighter safety because you're not across the board. You just are for A-side fighters. And just to piggyback off of what Chicano said and Beeb said is we have a real issue in boxing. And we have a real ignorance of the boxing public, the hardcore boxing public, of knowing betting odds, knowing what a mismatch is, being able to pinpoint it, because we don't have, if you recognize this, every sport has high profile people who have podcasts, television shows talking about betting. Football has it, basketball has it, college, NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, college baseball, they all have them. Boxing is, UFC has them. Boxing is the only sport I know of that doesn't have high profile commentators who have educated shows on boxing betting. And that's a real problem because they're not educating the boxing public on what plus minuses are, over-unders, why they're priced at a certain amount, why they're put at a certain point in the fight. And you just have an uneducated, hardcore boxing public when it comes to matches and matchups and why they're priced that way. And another issue with that is what Chicano was saying earlier is when you watch on a Sunday, every Sunday I watch my friends, family members watching a football game that they have no interest in other than it's their fantasy match. Or they've got the New York Giants -5. It's a big thing. And boxing is not capitalizing off of it. Just the past couple of years, Showtime started showing odds. The Zone started showing live betting odds. But it's still, in boxing, we're in the caveman era. And we need to catch up because gambling, sports betting has taken off. It's through the roof. It's being legalized pretty much everywhere except California. I don't know what they're doing out there. They just shot it down. But it's the big wave, and you got to get on board because you keep slipping behind. Somebody, some big profile person in boxing has a huge vacuum to fit that they can fill when it comes to this. Huge vacuum.
Jiffy, what are your thoughts? Do we have an issue with mismatches in boxing, in your opinion?
Absolutely. And just like being an active fighter, I know that. And also I notice, I can only speak for Texas because that's where I fight. But I notice our commission here is getting like very, very strict on the opponents because obviously promoters, they want to build the records of their A-side fighters. But they have like a 10-0 guy and they can't get approval for somebody who's like 2-1, of course. And the commission should definitely not allow things like that because of safety measures, because anybody who gets in the ring, they're literally putting their lives on the line. And I might be going off here. But yeah, I think there's an issue with mismatches, and I think it's because there's an agenda for the A-side fighter because they want to build the record and they just kind of get someone that they know that their fighter can beat.
No, I mean, look, I agree 100%. And shout out to Texas, of course. You know what I mean? All day, every day. But my issue is definitely safety because we get people that talk about fighter safety all the time. Mm-hmm. And I've had this conversation with colleagues. Everyone focuses on from the A-side fighter's perspective. They don't think about the other fighter. Like I can't count on one hand when people say things like, not even like with mismatches, but when they say things, I remember a content creator here once said, Floyd was a smart fighter because he didn't get in there and duke it out with guys. He made sure he was the only one landing punches, not his opponent, right? Now, I mean, that's a straw man. Floyd got hit as well. I'm sure he took, he had his injuries and all that. But what I'm saying is, yeah, like Floyd beating up his opponent, like that fighter was still getting beat up, right? No one thinks about the B level side. Like, no one thinks about that. We need to make sure. And look, and I don't want to put any fighter on blast or nothing like that. And it's not the intent. Okay.
Don't do
In
it.
the UK, you have a boxer called Beck Conley. Okay.
Uh-oh.
She gets passed around from fighter to fighter to get beat up by all the top fighters. And it was sad to me when I saw her post on social media that she needed help getting funding for her medical clearance. What's going on?
Horrible.
So not even paying the B-side fighters.
Yeah, like I don't know how
Not
much
even
they
covering
pay her.
medicals. That's crazy.
I'll be honest, I don't know exactly. Maybe that was a physical. Maybe they got to pay for it. I don't know. But like I don't know how it works in the UK. But she was asking for like people to help her out, and it's like all these promoters that keep putting her in the ring with their A-side fighter to get beat up. Y'all like you can't pay for that or what? At the very least, you can't do that. But she's lost like 13 straight fights. I don't want to get on her, but can you at least bring her, like, put her against someone that's been losing as well? Then maybe it's more equal than with an undefeated Sky Nicholson.
Yeah, I
But,
think
like,
it's important that you build up the B-side fighter too, so it looks like an even match with the A-side fighter. At least if they're trying to make it look good on paper.
Yeah, I agree, but it just doesn't make sense to me. And I'm seeing a lot in the UK, especially with all these women fight. They're fighting women that they don't be, like. They're 7-0, and they're fighting women with like 0-7 records. Like there's a problem there. Like fight someone who's there with you, that they could work their way up and you could work your way up, but you got to fight someone where it makes sense, right? And I'm not going to overlook it just because it's women's boxing. I'm going to look at it across the board, but that's me, okay? But at the end of the day, Joe Habib's a big Conley fan. He doesn't like the fact that I just called her out, but it is what it is. But look,
You don't put these women on blast like that. Come on.
I believe in equal rights, okay? So when I criticize the women boxers, I criticize the same way I criticize the men at the end of the day. Okay.
You remember?
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you remember Jessica McCaskill in her last fight before Cameroon when she fought?
Yes, that was a mismatch.
Did you see what Ibarra did when her corner wouldn't stop the fight? She yelled at, she turned and yelled to her corner, "I want to go home to my kids." That was like gut wrenching, man. Oh my God.
That was sad. I didn't like that.
D-Style, real quick.
Disturbing.
I want to make clear, like, mismatches are going to happen. Like, Inoue has to fight Butler for undisputed. We all agree. He's a 60-1 favorite, but the fight has to happen. Mismatches are going to happen naturally. It's going to happen. None of us have an issue with, like, if Crawford is fighting Evan because he has to stay busy, he's a 12-1 favorite. All right, fine. That's not what we're talking about. It's the unneeded mismatches that are forced. But also, it's become so bad that, look, Frank Martin versus Michelle Rivera is a great fight. It is. But that should be like normal in boxing to have fights like that, right?
Yes.
We shouldn't have discussions where, oh, no, they're not ready yet. They're both undefeated. They're not the same. That's been my point with Boots versus Virgil. It's like, you can't get the fights, just fight each other. Find a way to do it, fight each other. Like, those are the fights we should be having. And props to Frank Martin, Michelle Rivera for fighting. That's great.
It's one thing though, Calix, being a 10-1, 8-1 favorite, but when you're a champion and you're a top level guy, you're in the top 5 in your division, and you're fighting guys where you're a 30-1 favorite over. That's ridiculous. That's just too much.
In a way, 60-1, B 60.
Yeah, but in fairness, in a way, he's fighting a titleist though. Like,
he's a minus 6,000.
Oh, that's
minus
insane.
6,000.
Yeah, but the guy's a titleist. Well, what do I know what to do with him?
That's fair. I mean, obviously, that's a
he's got to
different
fight it.
I mean, it is what it is.
Unless Butler just goes into the ring and says, "Here's my belt." I mean, he's got to fight him.
He's fighting a competent. Look, there's going to be fights that are one-sided, like it with the bookies. I get that, I just want to see someone who could defend themselves in the ring, be in the ring against someone at that level. That's it. Right? It is what it is. I just what happened last week, and we've seen it happen over and over. Like I don't want to see that happen again. Right? Like I don't want to see boxer. I don't want to hear about a boxer having a coma, being in the hospital, induced coma. I don't want to hear about that. That's sad. I don't want to hear about that.
Now let me just say this. That was a story, right? What did that last 2 days? But this whole Conor Ben thing with the PEDs has been going like that. People were talking about it for a month, right? What's worse? What happened with the coma or Conor Ben? You see what I'm saying? They like to pick and choose their outrage.
Yeah, I agree. Let's talk about really quick. Sonny Edwards versus Felix Alvarado. The fight's going to happen this weekend. I'm going to tell you guys right now, I believe Felix Alvarado is going to win this fight.
Ooh.
Look, the Nicaraguan fighter, they're going to be fighting in Sheffield or Shitfield. You know, it's going to be a sad day.
Whoa.
It's going to be a sad day in Sheffield. And I want all the fans in Sheffield to do something about it. How about that? Do something about it. You got Felix Alvarado is going to be right there, front and center. Just like it's going to be a sad day in Leeds in a couple of months too, like in a month or so. I'm just saying, El Venado and Chan O'Connor will do their thing, but we're not talking about that right now. Right now, we're talking about what's going to happen. Okay, what's going to happen with Sonny Edwards, who I don't think who's he got. Everybody knows the UK dudes can handle that pressure. Like, everybody knows this. Okay, Felix Alvarado, he's a pressure fighter. He's going to come in strong. But I want to know what you guys think about it. Calix, who's going to win this fight?
Sonny Edwards. And let's first take two things off the table, right? Sonny Edwards is one of the lightest punchers in the sport, and I'm putting in that generously, right? He's got like a 22% KO.
He's like the Malignaggi of the division.
Malignaggi numbers is what it is. It really is Malignaggi numbers. It's very low. Four KOs, I believe, in 18 wins, something like that. And with Alvarado, we've got the opposite. We've got a guy who isn't a great boxer in D-style. This guy is basic, and I mean basic pressure fighter. Basic, come forward, wide pressure.
That's all you need with these UK fighters. That's all you need.
It can work, but he's the inverse. Is 38-2 with 33 KOs, I believe. So he's a puncher, but he hasn't been in there with anybody like Sonny Edwards before. It's a big step up for him, and he's on the road. So we take two things off the table, right? We take Sonny Edwards' knockout is off the table, and Alvarado by decision is completely off the table. So it comes down to, can Sonny Edwards outbox him throughout the fight? And I think he will. I just think Alvarado is a basic fighter. Sonny Edwards is very skilled. And I think he's going to outbox Alvarado throughout the fight. And I like the minus 350. It's minus 350 if you get Sonny Edwards by decision. And the Janabek prop bets have not come out yet. So I'll likely parlay a Janabek stoppage with a Sonny Edwards decision.
Okay. All right. You're wrong. Like, Alvarado's going to take him out, but it's okay. Jiffy, you have any thoughts on this fight?
So I was siding with Alvarado just because of his knockout percentage. But I don't know. I think it's a good fight, and I think good fights aren't always big fights. I think they're both threats to each other in different ways. So I'm still going to side with the bigger puncher just because who doesn't like a bigger puncher? So hopefully Sonny can outbox him.
Okay.
But the UK fighters he's not going to have a problem like bouncing. He's going to be on his toes. You know, he's going to be more elusive. So we'll see.
I mean, we saw what happened to Josh Warrington when he got pressured. You know, I'm just saying, I'm just putting that out. You know, like, but Joe Habib, I know you're the adopted son of the UK, but sometimes you got to keep it real, like an intervention kind of, is that what this is? Or do you believe in your boy?
I mean, I'm not going to discredit your pick here because you do have an argument, but records can be deceiving sometimes. We see a lot of knockouts, and automatically we go, this guy can punch. And Sonny Edwards is a really slick boxer. He's got great pair of legs. He can move. It's hard to hit. He doesn't have a lot of knockouts because that's not his game. You know, he's a guy that just likes to out finesse his opponent, and he does it in style. And I think his speed and his movement will give Alvarado problems here. I think Alvarado, like Calvin said, he's kind of a basic guy, right? He's a guy comes straight at you. He's a stalker, very heavy-handed, but he doesn't have the quickest feet in the world. So if you can't get those feet in position where you can track down and pin Sonny Edwards in a corner or on the rope somewhere, then it's like having that big gun and trying to aim it, and you keep missing the target, right? You can have the most powerful gun in the world, but if you have a person that can't aim that gun and can't line that gun up right and shoot the target, then what good is that gun? So again, I think Sonny Edwards will win a decision here. I think that's the best play here is Sonny Edwards by decision.
Man, this is from Nicaragua, bro. This dude fought for a sandwich in the street. You think he's scared of Sonny Edwards? I'm just saying. Hey, but Box Talk, what do you got in this fight, brother?
I think it's about as 50-50 as it gets. I think it's a good fight. I like it. I'm usually like one of the frontline people when you see a group of people that are talking down on these UK fighters. I'm usually right there, man, front and center. I'm not big on these guys. I'm not, man. I'm sorry. But you know what? I like Sonny Edwards, man. I think his Twitter game is fire. I didn't used to like him, man. I followed him on Twitter and I was like, yo, this dude's hilarious, man. I like him as a character. He won me over. As far as what he does in the ring, we know what he does and we know what he doesn't do. He lacks power. We get that. And then on the other side, you know, you got Alvarado who obviously has power. He may have fought for a sandwich, but did he win? Like, sure I don't know. He's a pressure fighter.
No, he won because he's still alive. They fight to the death over there. Only the guy that wins the sandwich wins.
The sandwich wasn't in Sonny Edwards' hands. That's what you forgot to say.
So I don't know, man. But you know what? And I don't tend to go for these UK fighters, man. I don't think they're really the ones. But I like Sonny Edwards, and I hope he wins.
Man, I saw his brother like bend the knee. Like I don't know, man. I'm just saying. I'm just saying that the blood's right there. Yo, but Chicano, what do you think?
Well, I gotta say, I like the upset pick D style. Like this is kind of wide odds. We haven't seen an upset pick of like, you know, my book says -350. So those are pretty wide odds. You know, these days people are doing victory lap when they pick the odds on favorite to win, right? So props to you, man. I actually think Sonny Edwards is going to win. I think that these odds are appropriate. I like Edwards' skill set. I think he can slip punches pretty well, but ultimately I think it will go to a decision. But, you know, these guys being the little dudes, I expect it to be a very entertaining fight until the fight ends.
Man, I don't know, man. I think Sonny Edwards going to bend the knee. It's got to be honest with you. I don't think he's going to be able to take that pressure.
We're giving you an opportunity. Are you going to apologize to the city of Sheffield?
I just said Sheffield.
Don't do it, bro.
You're making fun of my accent. That's how I pronounce it. Sheffield. Right? Isn't that what it's called?
You have to retract that. You have to retract that.
Like I'm just saying. Like, what? Unless you want to make fun of my Mexican accent, you know, Sheffield.
You can't do that, man. We're gonna get emails. We're gonna get too many emails tomorrow.
They could shut me up when Edwards wins the fight. How about that? Okay, how about that? Because he's gonna bend the knee.
Take your blue check away now. Come on.
He's gonna bend the knee. Okay?
Damn, $8 down the drain.
Hey, but check this out. One more fight, really quick.
Come on.
We'll bounce around really quick. Jonas Dicaire, 154 unification fight. Chicano, we'll start with you really quick. What do you got?
Well, I'm still new to women's boxing, but I got Jonas by decision. Looking forward to the fight.
Sexist.
Hey, no, I'm learning. I'm on board now. You know, I'm just behind. That's all.
All right. Box talk. What do you got in this fight?
Where's this fight?
UK.
I'm not gonna watch it.
Damn.
When those guys start coming over here, it's like
two girls. There's two girls.
It's like the ocean. No, I know, but it's like the ocean is like the ocean serves as like some sort of filter. They don't all make it. over here.
But you're picking Edwards to win, though. What's going on over here?
But he's over there, and the guy's coming to him, and these girls are both from over there, right? Somebody's obviously
no,
gonna
no.
win.
The carry's from Canada.
Decaire is Canadian.
That doesn't count either.
Canada's got to count. It's North America.
No.
You're not Team North America?
Too much xenophobia for me on this panel. Come on.
All right, Joe Beeb, Jonas. Look, we know Jonas came from 130. She lost to Katie Taylor, moved up, surprised everybody by becoming champion. Now she can become unified champion. I mean, is Dicaire is she going back to the well a little too much, fighting the natural 154-pounder here?
Not at all. Not at all. I love Tasha Jonas. She's an excellent fighter, and she's a very heavy-handed puncher. She's quick, great pair of legs, and she's like with that ambush in and out type style. She's hard to pin down. Decaire's more of a wide clubber type, and I think I can see Jonas just threading the needle, going right down the middle on her, going in and out. And I think Decaire will be chasing her. I think Jonas would stop her actually, because Decaire has a very leaky defense. She's wide with the punches. She winds up, she telegraphs a lot. Jonas is a phenomenal counterpuncher as well. She's so versatile. I'm going to say Jonas stops her in about 6 rounds. I think she gets her out of there, actually.
I think that Jonas is going to win. I don't know about getting her out of there just because I'm not sure about the weight adjustment. But from what I've only seen Decaire fight once, and that was against Clarissa Shields.
Yeah.
So from what I saw in that fight, she was very jumpy. She was a smart fighter. It looked like a chess match to some extent. So I'm curious to see how Jonas does against her. I know Jonas she's a power puncher, so I'm gonna say Jonas by decision, by unanimous. I don't know. I was gonna say unanimous, but I'm not sure. Maybe split. I don't know. We'll see.
Okay, all right. Calix?
Jonas is a 5.5 to 1 favorite. The over/under is 8.5, and the over is -500. So if Beeb
we got to take
a good stoppage, you got to go under there. You got a lot of value on the under, but I'm going over. I think Jonas is going to win by decision, by a clear decision. That's what I'm going with. And this weekend, I'm telling you, for the boxing heads out there, you got Janabek back, you got the Sonny Edwards fight, you got Montana Love back in action, Richardson Hitchens, and you got this fight. There's some fights out there to watch.
I do agree that Jonas is going to win. I don't think she's going to knock her out. Look, Jonas could punch. She's got to punch, but this is a higher weight class. Like Decaire is naturally bigger than her. Decaire didn't get stopped by Clarissa Shields. I know what people are going to say. Oh, Clarissa, she doesn't have power, but Clarissa's a lot bigger than Jonas. You know what I mean? So I think it'll go decision, but I do think it's going to be competitive, though. I do think it'll be a close, 6-4 type decision for Jonas, I believe. And shout out to Boxer. That's with the 2 X's. They've been doing their thing over there. If speaking of Seniesa, by the way, she could have signed with them as well. I think they could have done wonders for her as well. But that is that. I want to thank everybody that tuned in to the round table. I want to thank everybody that joined us. Calix, everybody subscribed to Calix 2.0. Jiffy Morales, you got a podcast here with Coach Collinsworth, right?
Yes, Soapboxing Podcast. They just added me as the co-host.
Well, there you go. So
wait, what is it?
Soapboxing Podcast.
Yeah, Soap Boxing Podcast. Make sure you guys go ahead and check that out. Subscribe to their channel. And when do you guys go live?
We pretty much go live whenever we feel like it. We're not structured.
Okay, well, there you got to subscribe, hit the bell, so that way you're notified when they go live. Joe B, Ringside Reporter. They do go live at a scheduled time every Sunday. All right, so make sure you check them out. Box Talk 101. Make sure you subscribe to his channel. And Chicano Al Chile. Make sure. I think they're just like the Soapbox. They go live whenever you can, right?
That's right.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that at all. This is D-Style Boxing. Keep it boxing, guys. I'm out. Peace.
Bye.